All right, before we get into this episode, I want to let you know about an exciting announcement. We will be running a major Black Friday sale on the entire Black with No Cream merch store, giving you 25% off for a limited time. That's right. Our hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeves, hats, mugs, they're all going to be 25% off. The sale will begin at 8 a.m. Pacific on Black Friday, November 29th, and it will last for 24 hours. Simply go to shopbwnc.com and use code Black Friday when checking out. All right, let's get to today's episode. Hey, if you're about to watch this episode because you're a fan of Tim, I just want to forewarn you that I cuss a little bit. I know Tim likes to keep his content kind of PG, so there's your warning. Enjoy the episode. And we are back with another Black with No Cream podcast, new episode every single Wednesday and Sunday. I'm your host, Ben Haggerty, aka Ben Real Verse World, and today on the podcast is one of my good homies, Timothy Dodd, aka the Everyday Astronaut. He's the creator of that channel, and they produce educational content about rocket science. Currently has over 30 million plus video views on YouTube, which is insane. This is actually part 2 of our podcast because I interviewed Tim a couple years back when he had just started the Everyday Astronaut channel. And honestly, a lot has changed since then. At the time, he had just quit his full-time job as a full-time photographer. And let me tell you, that's like a huge risk because he was one of the highest paid photographers in the state of Iowa, which is major. So if you want to listen to that episode, swing on over to episode number 5 in our catalog and check it out. In this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off. Tim takes us through his journey of building his YouTube channel into a massive success with no formal training in rocket science and no engineering degree. Only what he calls a 2-year degree in nothing. Tim dives deep into his process when creating his incredibly complex videos involving months of planning and research and the value that he places on quality over quantity. Finally, he takes us through the goal he had set at the beginning of 2019, which was to interview the legend Elon Musk, the founder and CEO of SpaceX and Tesla. And about 2 weeks prior to us recording this interview, he did just that. His interviews with Elon currently has over 1.5 million video views, and the story on how that interview came to be is insane. If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, you're probably wondering,
what the fuck is Black with No Cream?
Great question. Black with No Cream is the illest educational resource for content creators fueled by caffeine. Or at least I take my coffee black with no cream, but you can drink or not drink whatever caffeine you fuck with and still be a part of our community. We have thousands of members from all around the world working together by sharing content, asking for feedback, passing tips and tricks along to one another with the goal of pushing each other to become the best motherfucking content creators on earth. And you can join our private group if you want to by going to bwnc.com/join. We would love to fucking have you. Please join. All right, that's it. Enjoy the work week. Keep creating. Make sure to tune in every single Wednesday and Sunday for a new episode. And if you enjoyed this podcast, show us some love by subscribing to us on YouTube, where we release our In the Field series, taking you behind the scenes with talented creators. And also follow us on Instagram at Black with No Cream. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because every review helps other creators find this podcast and understand what it's about. And without further ado, I bring to you my episode with the Everyday Astronaut and the most epic podcast intro ever created right motherfucking now.
Attention.
If you stop this podcast recording at any time, you will die.
I don't want to die.
Do you want to live?
Yeah.
You have 24 hours to share this podcast with 5 people or you will die.
I'm kidding, you won't die. You're just weak shit for not sharing.
And the winner of the best motherfucking podcast goes to...
Black with No Cream.
What do you think?
It's so fucking dumb and so fucking Ben Haggerty.
I knew you would say that. And we are back with another Black with No Cream podcast. New episode every single Wednesday and Sunday. I'm your host, Ben Haggerty, aka Ben Real Verse World. Today, here on the podcast with the Everyday Astronaut.
Can I hire you to be my hype man? Jeez, man.
Tim Dodds on the podcast today. I've never, out of all the intros I've ever done, if you're listening on audio, then that means you're not paying attention to what we do on YouTube, but there's this awkward, during that intro, there's this awkward staring session that we do with the camera, and I make all my guests do it. And I've never, out of all the people that I've ever had on here, I never expected Tim to be uncomfortable during that.
We've done some dumb things in front of a camera together.
We have, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you go back, like... Tim is a person that will do whatever in front of a camera, and I just said stare at this camera for 20 seconds, and he almost couldn't.
I almost crumbled.
Tight.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
Does that mean I'm old?
Maybe you've gotten older now, so you can't handle the pressures of staring at. Anyway, Tim Dodds on the podcast. If you don't know what the Everyday Astronaut is, what is a quick way you could summarize it?
I teach rocket science on YouTube. And my whole goal is to bring space down to Earth for everyday people. So I try to digest really complex topics like rocket science, which can be really intimidating, have a really high intimidation factor and high barrier of entry, and make it. And I break it down into like all the fun stories and like all the science behind it. And I try to do it through like an entertaining and really a storytelling way.
And so what's interesting about this, if you're new to Tim's story, or if you're here from Tim's story and you don't know me, Tim and I go all the way back to like high school, pretty much. We've known each other. He's from Iowa. I'm from Iowa. We're in LA currently recording this podcast. But Tim was one of my first guests on this podcast.
Yeah.
Episode number 4, I believe. 5. And so if you want to hear, like, we kind of talk about the origin story of Tim and creation and his interest in photography early on and stuff, and our story. So if you want to listen to that, the link will be in the description. But what I want to talk to you about now is kind of the progression since that happened to where you are now, because it's ludicrous. I'm trying not to cuss. I normally cuss a lot on this podcast just because that's who I am. But I'm trying to keep it PG for your audience.
My audience will appreciate that. Yeah.
But it's ludicrous how we were just checking like stats, because I think at the time we recorded the podcast the first time, you started Everyday Astronaut, the actual YouTube channel, a year maybe before that, or maybe a year and a half at that point.
About a year, yeah.
A year. You ran it for a year and had no real traction at all.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't do numbers like for the amount of time and energy and the content you were creating.
Right.
The payback in subscriber growth or whatever wasn't really.
Oh, and it was definitely not a living. Like,
not
at
a living.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, I luckily had a savings account,
right?
And and Audrey, who I was with at the time, she had a decent paying job, so we could afford to have me
take the risk
on the line,
right?
Because it was a grind with no return.
Right.
And it's not about the return, but like, if you want to keep doing that, it has to be financially valid too.
Well, and I think it's like, if you hear of anybody that starts up a business, they could have the greatest idea in the world and they sit there and pound at it, and eventually it's like, does it work or not? If it doesn't gain traction, like, how much time do you continue to put energy into something before you give up or move on to the next idea,
Exactly.
But for you, it was like, I know if I stay consistent and create consistency, something can happen, because I'm so interested in this topic of space that other people will be, right?
Well, and for me, like, I knew, because I have no formal training at all, and I don't have an engineering degree. I don't even have a 4-year college degree. I have a 2-year degree in nothing.
Right.
And
shout out to Hawkeye.
Yeah, shout out to Hawkeye. And I know my path that it took for me to learn rocket science, and for me to like be enlightened on these certain topics that are really complex things. And they're still fresh enough in my head that I get excited by that learning process.
Right.
And I'm like, when I finally figured out how, the rocket equation works, like, that's so cool. So then, like, I still have it fresh in my head that I want to be able to teach it to people, And
you're talking about learning that when? Like, you're talking about how I still have it in my head from what, like grade school or something?
No. Within the past 5 years.
Oh, right.
5 years ago, I couldn't have told you like what a solid rocket booster was versus a liquid fueled rocket booster.
Right.
Like, I had no idea.
But you were just interested in the hobby of it.
Yeah. And as I learned more and more, I wanted to learn more and more.
Right.
And so, like, I realized that clearly there's again, that high barrier of entry that can be really intimidating. And I'm reading all these forums, I'm on Reddit all the time reading like the SpaceX stuff and really paying attention to that and all the NASA things. And I'm seeing similar questions over and over and over. And I'm seeing like people really have it, like, I don't get this, And so then I was like, well, I finally did get this.
Right.
I bet I could teach some,
right.
Make it approachable. Like, and I liked answering people's questions, online. So I guess it was like stemmed from that,
But what I think is so interesting is like, like Dave said earlier, like when we were watching, I don't know what we were looking at. We were watching Elon's interview, or you had called me to talk about getting it approved or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about it, and Dave's like, so did he care about space before he started this? And I'm like, I really didn't. I don't know. I think he just generally was like nerdy about it, like interested in it, because when you announced, like when you started doing it and you started having a passion for it, you were like showing old pictures that you used to draw of like spaceships back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a kid would be obsessed with that stuff. But the origin story of how this came to be in a nutshell is the funniest thing on earth. And we talk about it extensively in the past podcast, but in a nutshell, Everyday Astronaut stems from
I bought an old spacesuit as a joke.
As a joke, like on like an eBay type website.
Literally, yeah. Like, I was sitting at a coffee shop and saw this thing pop up, and I was like, and I was doing photography full time. And
Right.
I was, starting to really pay more and more attention to space stuff. And like that was becoming, so that's why I was surfing on like a website that had a bunch of space listings, because I was starting to care and think this stuff was cool.
I need to know. I should see if there's a, space related things I could buy and have in Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, basically it was like, what could I do? And so I was looking for stuff that I could afford, and no one had bid on this like Russian high altitude flight suit. And I was like, that would be sick to own.
Right.
And I didn't really have any plans for it, or anything.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it all started. Was it came to my doorstep, and eventually I started taking pictures of myself in it.
Right.
As kind of like an art project. And as I learned more and more about space flight and the history, I started like trying to hide Easter eggs and all that stuff, in those pictures. And that is what clicked and made the library of all that stuff kind of click in my head, was this art project.
Right.
And then I wanted to take it from an art, and I realized the value of education and teaching, and the value of what I had gone through to go from, I know literally almost nothing about this. I like it. I like space,
Yeah.
But then to actually like learn about it and to learn about space, specifically space flight. I'm not like I don't know much about astronomy really. I'm like really bad at like planetary science and stuff. But rockets, like I know those in and out now, really, really well. And I know my journey that it took just as a casual observer to be able to get to that point.
Right.
Yeah,
it's so interesting. I feel so from a creative standpoint, right? Most of my listeners are creative community.
Yep.
You've developed a way to turn having a YouTube account into like your full-time job. And so what people might not know is you saying you took photos of the spacesuit with you in the spacesuit. Tim is like one of the highest respected wedding photographers at the time, and just photographer in general, but like your main gig was doing weddings at the time. So you were doing weddings every single weekend, booked out all year long, charging higher than most people were, and getting hired because of your work. So when he's talking about taking photos in the spacesuit, like they were super creative images where you were, the first series you were doing Photoshop stuff, weren't you?
Yeah.
And so it looked insane. Like at one point it's like a shot of you trying to fly off a building and you're falling mid-city, but you took the photo of the buildings, probably when you were traveling somewhere, wherever you were at, and then comped himself in and made it look really creative. But that photo series boomed on Reddit. So do you feel like at that moment when it took out, like when those photos, they're so creative and we all love it and we thought it was funny, and like I would help you, like the shot of you walking the dog with the drone, you know what I mean? It's like we found ways to get creative while we were just having fun, just messing around, but it goes crazy on the internet. Does that kind of pique interest? Like maybe if this is fun, maybe I could kind of feed more of this content to this community or contribute to the community that I'm interested in right now.
Oh, for sure. And the whole thing is like anywhere you see growth and you see a trend towards the positive, just knowing how exponentials work. And not to quote Elon Musk too much, but he always talks about exponentials, that they're so hard to understand that, if something doubles every year, and for 4 years you could have a total sleeping giant. Like, I went from 100 subscribers to 200.
Right.
Then I went from 200 to 400. Then I went from 400 to 800. And all of a sudden, boom, within 10 years, you'll have like 1 million subscribers. Or like, it's nuts. And it seems so dormant, but the important thing is seeing that growth. And for me, a light bulb did click when I realized that I had an innate ability to draw attention to stuff.
Like some of the Reddit series would get like millions of views. Like you were getting millions of eyeballs on your photo series. And I remember you being ecstatic. Like you'd be like, oh my God, dude, I'm going to drop this. And I think it's going to get all the, I have this plan. And you would, every time he had a plan, he would do it, which was hilarious because I don't think any of our friends, our friend group was like, what is he doing?
No one knew or cared or anything.
Especially when you got to the point where you literally quit your job as like a full-time photographer to take on this idea of creating a channel where you could explore space science.
And even when I quit my job and I had to stop booking weddings, we talked about this, I think. Like, I didn't actually know what I was going to be doing.
No.
I just knew I wanted to do Everyday Astronaut full time.
Right.
And I didn't know what it was going to be at the time. I still thought I'd probably do a lot of Instagram stuff, although I had pretty much run out of photo ideas at the time. I thought it was maybe going to be playing a space video game that, like, it's called the Kerbal Space Program. And like you can learn physics and it's a really fun way to demonstrate things, but I assumed that was going to be a majority of my job would be playing that game on Twitch.
Right. Because you were streaming a lot. You were streaming, you would Photoshop, you would show yourself Photoshopping your space photos, playing this game. And I would watch it and I'd be like, what the hell is this game? You know what I mean?
what's this dude doing?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, it's cool. I just did blah, 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 blah. And I'd tune in for a while and just like try to get you to say my name on your stream. Like, all right, I got to go back to work. I don't know what's going on here.
Tim just did a home and transfer. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know. I'm just like, what the hell? But it was interesting because you did take this leap into complete blindness to try and attempt to create content around this specific topic. Like you were so good and still are so good at photography. You could have just created a channel and been a Peter McKinnon or a, you know, whoever, Casey Neistat, and created a channel around photography. But you went so out of for everyone that knew you, left field to take on this challenge of space, which I'm like, is there even a viewership there? Like, but then to come to find out there is, it's like insane how many people are also interested in this, or how many people you've put on to becoming interested in it. No different than you just being like, I like this stuff, I want to learn, and you're like learning in real time with your fans, like if you want to call them that.
Oh, absolutely. No, 100%. That's kind of part of the beauty is like, I am still learning every day. I wake up every day, I read everything I can still, like to this day, you know? And that's the beauty. Like, I don't know if we would quite want to jump all the way up to like present tense, but so we'll go kind of back a step. But I think that's what I learned that's what was actually my biggest asset as a creator, was what I can teach someone. It wasn't the ability to like draw attention, because attention doesn't always make people care to stick around again. You know, I'd have millions and millions, I think altogether 30 or 40 million views on images on Reddit. And it translated to, I think at the time, probably 50 or 60,000 Instagram followers. Which is a healthy, I'm very proud of that. But like the gap between the viewership and actually the retention to keeping them as a follower was horrible. That's horrendous. And what I valued was like, I realized it's not about pretty pictures, because I was trying to teach people in those pictures too. I'd be like, I'd hide Easter eggs and in the description talk about that stuff. But that was the wrong venue to teach people. And, you know, because these were things that I was excited about. These are things that like, I'm like, it is so cool to me that Apollo 12 got struck by lightning or whatever, you know, like, and try to do something, whatever. And, you know, it was the wrong venue for that. And it finally clicked one day when like I broke down a topic. It was my first like where I'm going to sit and try to make a YouTube video. And I broke down a pretty complex topic. I did a bunch of like demonstrations and made it digestible on how it actually works. And I realized like that's just the right venue for that.
To create that type of like talking head working through something and explaining
it. And
because are there resources like this elsewhere?
Yeah, you can look at it in, you know, there's like Smarter Everyday type of stuff. But there's a couple YouTube channels that talk about rocket science. Some of them are really like, there's a guy that I'm a huge fan of. His name's Scott Manley. Probably one of the smartest people I've like ever listened to. His knowledge base and the way he can figure things out is top tier. Top tier. He is an Apple engineer, and he's like a astronomer and just like this brilliant human. My goal now is to get people to his level, because a casual observer, if you popped on his video, you would probably nope out in 15 seconds. Because it's high level stuff.
But to me, it's like you're almost like the Gary Vee of entrepreneurs, where the average person that's really kind of interested in the bigger picture, I want to build this up, you're finding a way to teach them what they need to know to be able to understand the big high end. You know what I mean? Which is super cool. Because I can watch it and kind of like, I'm like, oh, shit. Dang, this is, you know what I mean? Sorry, guys. I kind of get this. I don't really understand it or know how I use it in my normal life. But like, know how I'm gonna. But I think it's like when I got it, like we flew drones early on, and then I got interested in drone racing, and I've never flown an FPV racing drone, which is crazy. I don't know how. But I was so obsessed with the topic. I was listening to a podcast, consuming from these guys that fly those every single day, and I'm just like interested in hearing it. It has nothing to do with what I do. You know what I mean? Well, kind of drones, but but you know what I mean? At the time, it wasn't what it is now. And so I was so interested, and I feel like it goes the same way with your channel. Like whenever you drop videos, I'm like in the shower and I just turn it on just because A, support, B, I'm like, what is he probably talking about today? You know what I mean? Because it is interesting and it passes time and you learn a little bit of something that I didn't know before.
And that's, so, you know, that's what I focused on was my value as a creator. And this is for me personally. This is not every, you know, there's a lot of different venues on creation. But for me, it was like, I can teach you something, you know, and you can come to my channel. And that was even a lesson that I learned in 2018 for sure. Like last time we spoke, I was really cranking out content constantly. I was working I'd wake up or a launch would happen at 11 p.m. and then I'd be like, oh my God, something crazy happened during that launch. I'd stay up all night editing something so it could be out the next morning.
Yeah.
To like break the news almost.
Yeah.
And I got so worn out from that, and realized that it wasn't valuable because I was doing a lot of speculation. I was maybe saying things, I was rushing things, so I was factually wrong, which in my world is a big no-no as an educator in academia. Like this is going to be out there forever, probably.
Right. I
don't want to have false information out there.
And someone sees it's their first time on your channel and they're watching like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. He said that's not right. Like
I'm not going to trust him. I'm not going to come back.
Right.
And my number one value is I want, when you come to my channel, when I teach you something, I want it to be as factual. I mean, there's only such a fact is a fact,
Right.
I will go to the ends of the earth to make sure that what I'm teaching is right,
Yeah.
And so when someone clicks on my channel, I want it to be a definitive, like, evergreen. You will learn something, and this will still be true in 3 years. This will still be true in 10 years.
Right.
And that backlog, that changed this year especially. Like 2019, I started really focusing on evergreen, high quality content, upping the game every single video.
Right.
And I used to care about length of scripts, my first video, I was like, I cannot have a video over 3 minutes long. No one will watch a 3 minute long on YouTube. Now it's currently my number one video is 48 minutes long.
Really?
Yeah.
How many views has that got?
Like 1.5 million.
Holy crap.
And it's on the title of the video is SpaceX's Raptor engine, the king of rocket engines. If that isn't niche, like
that's so crazy.
It's about the full flow stage combustion cycle methane powered engine. That's the video topic. And it has 1.5 million. What? How can that be a video that has that many views?
That's insane.
And 48 minutes long with great retention, with like 32-minute long.
But you created this after you've kind of let go of the idea of I need to have my script. I need to make sure I hit 8 minutes, or I need to make sure I hit 3 or whatever. You just let it go, and that boomed.
I started saying, this topic is so hard to teach because the things you need to know for everything to click is very high. And normally, a normal person would be like, okay, I'll break this into a series. Like, if you want to learn about this rocket engine, check out this video, check out this video, check out this video. Here's nozzle efficiency, here's the stages, here's different fuel types, here's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, you know what?
I'm just going to jam pack it.
I'm gonna teach. If you click on this video, at the end of it, I want you to actually understand this rocket engine. I want it in context with other rocket engines. I want you to understand why this cycle is different and how it functions is different. And I want you to walk away knowing it. Period.
Right.
I don't care. No arbitrary length.
Yeah.
Because me as a researcher and as someone trying to learn it myself, I'd click on a video and I'd get the same surface level thing every time. The same 8-minute long video or 10-minute long video of someone explaining the same part over and over. It's like, but what if you don't know that part in the first place? Or what if you want to get beyond that one section into this next part? Right. All you'd get is the same idea around the same topic. And I'm like, okay. I think there's maybe a lot of value in walking someone through the whole steps from page 1 to the end of the page, end of the book. Right. And it doesn't matter how long it is. When it's done, it's done. Like
it's so. What's funny is that before you started this, your old YouTube channel, I don't even know if you could find it because you spelled your name all dumb and it was like impossible to even like look you up, because I remember we'd
still can't.
Yeah, we'd make so many good videos, like these ridiculous videos. Like there's one video of Tim literally in a cardboard cutout of a deer.
Yeah.
Frolicking around, and he calls it frolicking deer.
Frolicking deer.
Frolicking.
Yeah, I don't know why actually. Frolicking deer.
It was funny. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But so these are the types of videos Tim would make. Random. Tim inspired me into getting into video because back in the day, like we talk about in the other episodes, like shooting shows and all this stuff, he'd always have his camera and I was like, oh, you have such a cool camera. And I got so interested in that way. And then he would take to YouTube with just the dumbest ideas that we would just be like, this would be funny. What if we cut our friend's hair and the entire time we're cutting his hair and then we find out that his hair never got cut.
And we're all puking the whole time because his hair is so gross.
Yeah, we're throwing up as how ugly his hair is. Yeah. And that was a video we made.
That's an actual video you can still find on YouTube.
So then go to an interest in like, I'm going to make a YouTube video, which you never took. You didn't use YouTube as a platform as it is now. It's like a tool, right? But before it was just like the place to put stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is interesting. Yeah. But then you take on this challenge of, I'll do Twitch. I'm going to stream. Were you streaming on YouTube ever?
I mean, I started to after I kind of moved on to YouTube.
But it was almost like Twitch streaming, gone to YouTube and made video.
Yeah.
Like actual a piece, edited piece.
Yep.
And then you would work in streaming there as well.
Yep.
And you started building slowly, you built this audience to the point where now you've got your videos so dialed into something that you think works the best for your audience and is true to what you're trying to teach. So it's like when you go into making these videos now, how much time are you putting into creating like an average video? Like obviously a 45-minute video has to take some time to prep. What I also think is cool is that you can lean on your audience because like you have a Patreon and your supporters on Patreon who help you keep doing this every day, literally help you build scripts and stuff, right? So you're able to say like, does anyone know what this means? And
okay, so this has been the key, I think, to my success is that and my growth and my personal well-being is having people help me along the way.
Totally.
And for me, that's been a really strong community, specifically in Discord. I know almost all of, there's like 500 people or something in there that I know really well that I can pop in there at 2 a.m. if I'm still scripting and it's going to be one of those rabbit hole things where I'm like, okay guys, I just need to figure out these numbers. 1972, there were 3 variations of this rocket. Tell me which one did what.
Right.
You know, and where you can't just Google that.
Right.
And I'll have 3 people pop up in the middle of the night and be like, yeah, I'm on it. You know?
So then are they sending you like resources and showing you where it's coming from? So
or at least like getting the ball rolling on that stuff.
Right.
Because those sometimes can take me down a multi-hour rabbit hole. You know?
Yeah, you're just hunting.
Yeah, and for me, so much of this stuff is literally brand new. Like, okay, the video I'm working on right now is about a type of rocket engine called an aerospike engine.
Is that what you talked about in the Elon interview?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like this is a funny decision too, by the way. We'll get to there. But I've been working on this video for almost 3 months now.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And the first month and a half, 2 months were straight up research. Like legitimately me.
For how long? How long do you predict this video will be?
Over an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That
It's
makes
over
more
an hour.
sense.
Yeah.
Right.
It's over an hour. And I have interviews because I asked, this is how long I've been working on this. Last October, I talked to the CEO of Rocket Lab about aerospikes, knowing that I was going to be making an aerospike video in the relative future.
Like you interviewed during your interview, you talked on that subject.
I talked on that subject.
That was a nugget for your future video.
Exactly. Like that's how long I've been like having this in the back of my head. So when I finally was like, I am going to explain aerospikes because they're this. Short answer is they're a really cool engine that promises to be more efficient, like no matter the altitude. And normally, like a normal rocket engine is most efficient at one specific altitude.
Okay.
So as you know, as you ascend, like they get less and less, or they actually get more efficient, but they get more and more out of their like optimal range.
Right.
And then normally a rocket like stages, and you start off with a brand new stage up in space, and that has an engine made for the vacuum of space.
Got it.
And
I'm learning so much. So like what you're saying is this is like if you have a real Sony battery and you buy the knockoff and the Sony batteries. For all my people out there that don't know what.
Well, or it'd honestly be like, okay, so it's almost like having a good still camera and a good video camera. You know, like, and there's the promise of one that can do both as good is a high. That's a high thing to, you know, good luck. You know, normally those worlds are still.
Yeah, stills are there's lower megapixels, but the 4K video is so good.
Exactly.
I got you.
It's the same thing, and an aerospike engine promises to be as efficient at all altitudes. And like this really coveted engine, but they've been developed out the wazoo since the 60s, and none has ever flown. And it's this big like
they've been building them, but they don't try them.
They've built hundreds of them and tested them for thousands of seconds, you know, dozens of tests on all these different companies have done this. None has ever been put on a rocket and flown to space.
Huh.
And it's a really weird phenomenon. So it's a really interesting topic because it goes through a lot of decision-making processes. And for me to actually get to the root of really why has it not been used it took 3 months.
And what was sick is that you're talking to the people at the top level.
Yeah.
Like you have SpaceX, Elon. Who is the other company you just said?
Peter Beck, the CEO of Rocket Lab,
which is like an SpaceX.
They're kind of like an up and coming. Yeah, they're awesome.
So it's like you have SpaceX, that company, and NASA.
Well, then the CEO of another ULA rocket company.
So you're talking to these top dogs from this. So you're actually doing deeper. It's like you're making a documentary, but and it's in the form of a YouTube video.
Yeah,
but it's taking months. Literally months and months and months to put this together. On average, what would your normal, like a smaller video be, like a 10-minute or?
These days, a quick video is still 20 minutes.
Right.
Like I don't have anything less than 10 minutes anymore.
But how often are you uploading?
I don't.
You don't have a schedule
at all. That was the biggest lesson I learned in this year is now my new thing is if you follow me on Twitter, you will see when it's done with the trademark symbol all the time. People will ask me, when will this be done? Or like, when's it coming out? Blah, blah, blah. And the answer is when it's done. When I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rush this for some arbitrary reason.
Yeah.
I don't care about upload schedules.
Okay.
Because this is backwards. This is not normal.
I know. I'm interested to hear your theory on this.
This is not normal. To me, I know that YouTube is pushing more and more to have people watch the content like they would Hulu, Netflix, binge through long form content. They don't want people spend time having to surf. A 2-minute long video, in 2 minutes, you're going to have to find a new video.
Right.
It's probably not going to have that great a retention.
Right.
If you can show that when you put a video out and YouTube and your audience will watch it the second it's out and they will watch it all the way through because they are so excited about it, then you are like, that is going to be YouTube's like child, poster child. They will gladly continue to recommend that to other people of similar interests.
Which by testing that, you were like recommended by YouTube on their homepage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your channel was recommended or honored or spotlighted or whatever.
Yep, and I've been on trending a few times,
Yeah.
Which with not very many views. Well, I still don't know how the hell trending page works because it's like, I didn't have that many views. There are other videos with way more views in that same period of time. But it was considered trending, and I don't know if it was like manually chosen to be trend. I don't know.
Right.
No one knows the trend. I don't care that much about the trending page. What I do care about is that
the content is what it's supposed to be.
Content is king. Period. And if you're rushing a video out because you feel like, oh, I told people it's going to be out Tuesday, and I'm just going to rush through this and just get it out.
Then you go back to like your failures of misleading facts and things like that, which isn't what you want to be putting out.
Which is not what I want to be putting out. I want to be putting out the highest quality visually, so there's good visual representations of some of these complex things.
Okay.
I want the research to be thorough and correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, for this Aerospike engine, because a lot of these things were developed in the 60s, I had to go through old archives, like digitized archives of 200-page PDFs, find the actual numbers that they were getting on the test stand, which you can't search, by the way, because they're so old. They're like too crappy for the PDF to do the proper search.
Right.
And like that's the type of stuff that I do get help with. Where I'm like, guys, we got to find these numbers. And we were spending weeks on that, trying to find these really obscure numbers because that's the only way you can actually compare it to the other.
That's a real documentarian. Like you really are creating documentaries, which is
basically, yeah.
But okay, so going off of that, right? The typical thing that you see everyone practice or preach on YouTube is consistency and having an upload schedule. Mm-hmm. And if you miss that, you're messing up everything for your audience, blah, 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 blah. You literally are going the exact opposite way, where it's just like, I might not upload for 2 months and you guys just better be cool with it. Yep. Obviously, you don't want to go that long and you'll probably find filler content for in between, and you have the option to stream. Yep. But do you think, so if Game of Thrones just told me that they're just going to upload those episodes whenever they kind of get them done, everyone would go crazy, right?
They would go nuts.
But they don't have to because they have the resources of funding and things like that. No, but think about
what would happen if they're like, hey, actually, we didn't quite finish episode 8. We're still working on it.
Yeah, totally.
That would drop more attention than anything. So when episode 8 drops, people would lose. It would be the biggest one.
But then we also get into the point of directors and executives and all these people having all this time to sit on things, get opinions, blah, blah, blah. We draw something out where we're almost better off getting the content and moving on with our lives. And we're upset that blah, blah, blah died and this doesn't make sense. But still, the story's done. You know what I mean? Like we can move on to another TV series. But what I'm getting at is, so artists, all these different people, everyone gets funding to produce their content, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just you. And then sometimes you have the help of other creators besides your Discord for like scripting and stuff. But like, it's usually just you banging out the content or someone helping running a camera.
Yeah, I'll have a cam op.
Yeah,
Michael.
A cam op. Right.
You know Michael.
Michael. Yeah. So it's usually just...
Well, he's starting to do a little editing with me now.
Which is amazing. Great. Oh. So that's what I'm getting at is I always think it's funny how you've put the burden of it's just being you because it came from you're an independent person.
You know what the problem is, and Michael and I talked about this a lot. He's gone on the past couple trips with me, and helps. The problem is the stuff that I'm teaching, you still have to have that same knowledge. Like I'm going, hey Michael, here's the thing: the throw on this, it needs to be 100 meters. We need to flip it around to 360 degrees so that it's now a toroidal Aerospike engine, and all the flow has to come in and flow separation.
But could you hire researchers or people that are to put people on in a sense like? I'm just thinking like,
well, for him, how does he animate that? That's the actual problem.
Because you do the animations.
Because I do the animate. Like literally, how do I teach someone how to animate something that that I'm the first one to really do this type of animation.
You could still I don't know.
By the time
I'm trying to think what's the solve, because what if Everyday Astronaut channel was releasing a regular scheduled program that was at the level that you're producing right now, where it's not you know what I mean? If you could upload these videos, you obviously this long one that you're working on right now would take months to do, but that's just comes out on a scheduled day.
Right.
But if you went scheduled, do you think that your growth would boom?
It would probably grow. I mean, there's no doubt that there's a pressure for me that when I do a video that's performing well, of course you see an increase in subscribers, but that's almost secondary to me compared to the quality of content.
Yeah, right. It's like right now with the resources you have, a lot of it's on your shoulders, so you have to work within the realm. I'm always curious, like, who can I help assemble for you to be able to put? Because I'm just thinking, like, for me, even the podcast, it's like we put this together, but on top of it, I'm out touring with Beyonce for 5 months, and I can't focus on this, and it sucks. But then I come back and I just want to drop. I'm like, man, we're only doing one episode. Like, this episode's not gonna come out for a couple weeks, and I want to be able to put 3 out a week, like Joe Rogan does. Right. You know what I mean? But it's like, how do you change?
Well, here's my mentality, because there's 2 different trains of thought. For me, I live in the world that, okay, actually, I'm on a podcast where one of the guys puts out 2 videos a week.
Right.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
I put a video out when it's done, and the third guy, Ben, kind of does it similar, like whenever it's done.
Right.
It's secondary. And Joe, who he has like 6 people working for him, he has this pressure that every Monday and Thursday a video comes out.
Who are we talking about?
His name's Joe Scott, Answers with Joe.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Joe Rogan.
No.
Wait, what?
And his channel's great. His channel's awesome.
He has a video coming out which days?
Monday and Thursday, I think.
Okay.
Or Tuesday. I think it's Monday and Thursday.
Got it.
And the thing is I don't...
He has 6 people working for him?
Basically, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and
that's what I mean. Probably that's where you have to.
He has writers and he has all these things, so that he can do that.
Right.
And I live in my world, and this might be backwards. This might be wrong thinking, and this is definitely nothing against Joe and nothing against that mantra.
Totally.
But if you might be doing yourself a disservice if you're putting out so much content that people skip videos because it's like, well, I just saw their video and I'm not that interested in this one.
Right.
And they skip it. Guess what? I don't think YouTube's gonna recommend it as much.
Right.
And also with your fan base, like there is a chance that you'll oversaturate them. I will beg to say that very rarely has someone ever unsubscribed because you weren't making content. Right. But the adverse might be true. You might have people unsubscribing because you put out too much garbage.
That's true. Yeah. If you're overwhelmed by trying to produce at a high level, and you're producing stuff, and then you go back into the pocket you were in before, where some of it you run into facts being. I get that. It's such an interest, dude. I love it because it's the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, it is.
You're doing something that Logan Paul didn't do, and I'll talk about him just because I'm looking at people that perform at the highest level. Or Casey Neistat was doing every single day, 12-minute stories about his life, and it worked. And it grew and it continued to grow, and I'm like, all right, well, if he can do it every single day, like. Look what but eventually he burns out.
Well, and he burns out, and that has been done a million times,
over and over again.
Like, that's what everyone is still doing to this day. Like, I'm going to do a daily vlog. I'm going to do this and this. Like, what are you doing that's new? That was new at one point. That was cool and sexy and fun and different. And now everyone's still using what happened 5 years ago as their platform for what's going to happen in 2020. Like, I don't think that's the way people treat YouTube anymore.
But that's what I'm saying. Right now, you've shifted, and it's working for you.
Yeah.
But what I'm asking is, do you see a world where, or are you even interested in the idea of, I want to release content at the level I'm producing right now, with the quality I'm producing right now, more often? And if you got into a position where you could do it, say all of a sudden some angel investor came in and was like, I'm going to give you $10 million, and you can hire the whole crew you'd ever want. And it's almost like you're producing a TV show at that point.
Right.
And you're able to take your channel to the level of consistent heat every time, and I have the brilliant minds around me, whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then maybe the realm of it is like, I can vlog with my iPhone and just like have someone edit it together and make like a daily recap. But you're producing television worthy, you know what I mean? Like Nat Geo style content, discovering specific topics on this at a high level. Right. So often I'm like, does the channel explode to make it even worth it, or is it better to have like a more realistic one-on-one? Maybe your fans would rather prefer it's your style of, and they know your hands touched the entire
I
process.
think there's something to that. And I'm not banking on that because I doubt very many people would actually recognize that truth that like every inch of this video is mine. The music, the animations, every, like the script, every single even is written into the script. Like that's how deep I go into this.
That's crazy.
But I don't think that's necessarily a thing that sticks around. But the important thing for me is, for me, education and like the value of knowledge is absolute number one on my channel. That means that I need to take the time for myself to learn it, number one, period. And I can't rush that. I can't, the cool thing for me is going down those rabbit holes that suck, the things that take 3-4 weeks sometimes. You won't believe all these cool little weird nuggets that I find.
Right.
In history, in engineering, in like where something's backwards. And I would have never known that now I can pull from my own knowledge base, my own library, use those fun nuggets into other future videos, pull them together and do all these cool cross-pollinating where I'm able to weave all these stories together of like, now I talked about this in another video, but did you know that blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And if I started to outsource more and more of that knowledge, more and more of the scripting, more and more of some of those things, and even when I'm editing, I'm finding old videos, like I'm going through archives, I'm looking and becoming very intimately knowledgeable about these 1960s documentaries that the Air Force was producing about these engines, that NASA was producing for Congress people that now are public records and things. I know shot by shot some of these 1 hour long documentaries. I can tell you that they're braze welding the tubes on an RL-10 at 34 minutes in this one video about the Centaur upper stage. Like I know that.
Right.
And so all of that to me is extremely valuable.
Right, totally.
And I might be in a weird niche, niche, however
I don't know how you say it.
No one
Let us know in the comments, guys. Thank you.
Niche or niche?
You're going to spell it the same way in the comments, so we'll still never learn. That's just a problem with education.
But I might be totally out there on my own, like weird island for this type of thing, because it is a weird realm for me. But I do know what I personally value and what is important to me and what's important to my channel. And I let everyone know that quality is that's part of my brand, is I want people to know that I'm not going to go out there and feed you some breaking news idea that might be totally false in 2 days.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you something that is, I'm going to go down and discover my own truths about this and make sure that I'm correct, and I push the, like I said, when it's done mantra actually probably helps a lot because it builds up a lot of hype. Like I will, when I render out an After Effects animation and I get done with it and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I throw that up on Twitter,
just that
clip, that 30-second clip. It's like, hey guys, I just finished this thing about expansion ratios. Check it out. And then like Aerospike video coming soon.
Right. And it builds up hype for
it builds up hype and people see these previews and they're like, oh, that's cool. I've never seen that. And I also get feedback on that. So sometimes I'll have people like, oh, you misspelled this, you mispronounced this, well, that's not quite right. You should be at 0.6 bar, not 0.4, but whatever, You're
able to go back and tweak.
I can tweak it then.
Right.
So by the time the video is out, I've had hundreds of eyeballs on it already.
That's dope.
Of pedantic people that care about factual accuracy and care about the quality of the video.
Right.
And, and Twitter's blown up for me too because of that. Like my Twitter is almost as I'm finally about to pass Instagram on Twitter, and I never would have thought that Twitter could be a valid platform for me.
It's crazy, right?
I'm coming up on I think earlier this year, I think I started the year, I don't know, somewhere between 10 or 20,000 Twitter.
Oops, shit.
And now I'm at
my bad, guys. I bumped my leg on the table. Lost control. Go on.
But I think I'm at 84,000 or something now. So more than quadrupled on Twitter this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because
But you're using it right, in a way that people would enjoy following.
Yeah, that my followers and that the aerospace people would love seeing these little clips. They would love to see a cool animation of the difference between a blah, blah, blah and a blah, blah, blah.
And they're not necessarily, when they critique you, they're not doing it in a angst you're dumb. Maybe some people are because they can hide behind a Twitter egg. But people want to help.
People generally, and that's a thing I've had to try, and I'm still trying on this. I do have to remind myself that a lot of times the pedantic, I want the pedantic, but the tone can be so hard to interpret.
Totally,
I can just see it as that can ruin me. That can level me. If someone's like, you idiot, this is not.
And you just spent 25 hours creating
on this one thing. Exactly. And it sucks. That's something I've had to learn, and I'm still dealing with on a mental level. And I think all creators deal with some form of that,
absolutely.
bullying and all that stuff. But but it's a huge value though. It's a huge value.
Yeah, if you can wean through all the weak.
Yeah, exactly. And I know my product inside and out then. By the time it comes out, like in every video, I swear if my first video, and I told you it's, I think, last time we spoke, 2018, I would cringe so hard looking at my first video now. It looks like it's colored with a beige crayon by a third grader. Like the color grading is the worst. I'm yelling. The mic is literally, I think, on the opposite side of the room. Like, it sounds like I'm in a shower. I mean, it's...
dude, I was just watching the podcast we did with each other, and I didn't record video.
Right.
And so your episode is the only one I never recorded video. And on YouTube, it's this long apology of me saying like, hey guys, sorry. But by the way, I bought 3 new cameras and they shoot 4K, so expect better quality from now on. I'm literally using the video to apologize for for not putting my GoPro up.
Right.
I totally understand. But that's also cool because people can see progression.
Yeah. And if you're not embarrassed about what you did a year ago, you're not growing.
Facts.
Like a year ago. So this is another big thing. A big thing on my channel is I have not touched my spacesuit in 2019 at all.
And you used to use it in every single video.
Every video, everything was branded. I thought the brand of Everyday Astronaut was that spacesuit because it started off as that art project.
Right.
And I assumed that I had this audience, a decent audience on Instagram. I thought that when I took it to YouTube, I had to continue that because that was the brand, blah, blah, blah. Coming to find out, after enough people yell at me for why is this idiot in his pajamas? Why is he blah, blah, blah? Again, that same type of truth of like, there's probably never been one person that watches one of my videos that goes, I'm not going to listen to this guy. He's not wearing a spacesuit.
Right.
But the adverse is definitely true, where people would click on, why is this guy wearing, what is this?
Right.
Click off right away. Like, and that was weird to me because eventually I got sick of it anyway, like just comfort wise and the...
Yeah, you would go to... I remember you went down to wherever in Florida and you stood outside and people wanted pictures with you and you were there. It was like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Space
like, it's dumb. Looking at it now, like, it's embarrassing even already.
It's a signature.
It was a signature and it was where it came from. But I'm already like, man, that was divisive. Like, people did not like it. And I heard plenty about it. And I didn't take that feedback for the first... year and a half of the channel.
Right.
It took me until the end of 2018 to be like, nah, spacesuit's done.
Right.
And it was because I started doing a couple videos where like I was going inside SpaceX, and I'm not going to walk around SpaceX with like, that's unprofessional if anything.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable and cumbersome.
You guys don't dig this? Like, you guys like space and stuff. That's what my channel's about. You guys, is Elon here? Where does he live? I need to drive down that tunnel he got.
Which one of these two is my ride? Huh?
Yeah. Where's that red car that you guys are? Is that already in space or whatever? I don't really know what I'm talking about.
But there's definitely something there, and it took me a long time to realize that wasn't the brand.
Right.
That's what the brand was on Instagram as the art project.
But it's more so about what you're going to get from the videos, the concepts, the knowledge.
And I had seen people tell me, man, I love this guy's content, but I can't stay in that spacesuit. I saw that all the time. Like, I should have listened to that right away. It was
a red flag right away.
Yeah, but I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew, like, this is the blah, blah, blah. And yeah, and then, like, looking back at it now, it's like, oh, man. Like, I don't even I'm going to redo some of the videos that I like where I was wearing a spacesuit. And the other thing that changed for me is, again, because I'm a visual learner, and because it's YouTube and it's visual, like, why wouldn't I use a lot of graphics and stuff? I used to be probably 80% my face on camera and 20% like B-roll and some graphics and overlays and stuff, right? The adverse is true now. Like, I only use my face if it's like, I don't need to make an animation for this or B-roll. It's like only to maybe transition between topics. Otherwise, my videos are all graphics now because like it's my face.
Yeah, talking heads aren't, but it also can help to mix it in every once in a while, like just by natural.
It breaks it up for sure.
You don't have a suit anymore, so there's no like sore thumb,
right?
And then people can kind of tie your face. The other thing that's true, going back to what you were saying about how people might not notice that you've touched every inch of every video you've ever released. The ability to care so much about learning the topic that you're talking about, and I think this goes for any creator, because you get into something because you like either there's two reasons why you get into it, because you care about creating art, you're inspired by someone that's doing it that you look up to, or you're trying to get money, right?
Right.
And so when you come into it, if all you're focused on is growth and money, you're going to care less about the art. Therefore, your art will be probably pretty terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you come into it and focus on art, money may come later. Like, but that usually isn't like the main fuel behind it, right?
Right, especially for for a year you make $900 or something.
What up, creators? I want to remind you about our community at jointhehomies.com. The homies are the squad of legends who support what we do here at Black Window Cream so we can continue to build this platform into the best educational space for content creators on earth. And in return for that support, we give you a bunch of sick perks all month long, like access to our live stream tutorials and hangouts, bonus podcast episodes, and so much more. Check us out at jointhehomies.com. Let's go. Off ad revenue, maybe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Literally.
crazy. And as same for Black Widow Cream. It's like, I care so much about running a podcast to try to give back to the creators that listen to this. And hopefully someone that wants to do something similar to what you're doing can learn from your story and then give back. But the views were trash. The time behind it takes so long. And you never know until you get a message. You know what I mean?
Well,
until you get one person's message that is like, this changed my life, or this just inspired me.
Right.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. And you're in the same boat. You're providing education. You're providing a value of, we're going to teach you what's worked with, running it through. It's the same. You're playing the same thing. You care about your content.
Yeah.
You don't care about, growth has been 100% ancillary. Like, that's secondary to the content.
Yeah.
And that's been for day one for you. You've cared about quality. You've cared about really getting good interviews of people that have interesting perspectives and have seen success in different avenues. And then providing a community. Same thing. You're growing a community.
Yeah.
And like, that's what matters.
Yeah.
If all that stuff's going smoothly, the rest will come.
Well, and I think that by watching your content, seeing how much you care about the topic, now you become this verified source almost, in the sense that not like the traditional like blue check mark. It's like people trust you, like Bill Nye. Like I don't know Bill Nye's background. I don't know if he's educated enough to tell me about blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But you look at it, it's like, oh, Bill Nye, that's the person that knows this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I trust that he's going to do it no different than I could trust the weatherman to tell me like tomorrow's going to rain. So you, by showing interest and being there every day and putting in the work, they might not know that you've did the scoring of your videos with your music, or have a playlist of music that you made, or even that you had bands before, or any of that stuff. That doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They trust that you're the person that has gone all the extra steps that they won't go, or they, maybe they have,
or that they don't need to go.
They don't need to go, and they can trust that what you're saying is real, and that this is interesting information to take, which is crazy.
And to talk about like I've been working on a video for 3 months. The live stream stuff, like, I had to talk totally off the cuff about all of these things. So there's so many rockets that I don't live stream, because I just haven't ever done this deep research where I can easily talk off the cuff about I still have never done a Russian launch, and Russia's the only ones that are launching people to space right now still, and have been since 2011.
That's crazy.
And so anytime humans are going up to the International Space Station, which is about every 3 months, I still don't live stream those, because I don't have the intimate knowledge of the entire system inside and out.
Right.
And I want to be able to casually talk about it if someone's asking a question on live stream, blah, blah, blah. I want to be able to just spitball and rely on that what I'm saying is as true as it can be. I'm just not comfortable right now. If I were to talk about Soyuz, I would have a lot of things wrong.
You should just stream the next one and be like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on with the chat. I can't see it. So I'm just going to watch what's going on.
And it's just
there. You watching that happen.
3, 2, cool. Cool, they did it.
Well, that's crazy. The person's on there.
All right.
All right, that was it.
Yep,
Thanks for watching the
guys.
stream. All right, bye. Merch and bio or whatever. You're like, what the? No, but that is interesting, because with the streams that you do, you're constantly talking and giving feedback. And like, I'll watch the streams because I'm like, how is he streaming out in a field?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how did he get internet to be able to stream? I can barely do it from the office sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like, it's incredible just to be able to put together the ability to do that. We were in Colorado for
Tom's birthday.
Oh yeah, Tom's birthday. I was like, why were we there? So we were just there this Christmas or whatever, and or whenever, I don't know when we went. This last winter,
January.
Yeah, January. But Tim's like, oh, I gotta stream real quick. There's something happening or whatever, and he had his whole little portable setup, and he went into a room and used his hotspot. And I'm just watching him. I'm like, I've been trying to do this from my laptop on the internet. How are you able to make this work? You know what I mean? But you've spent so much time from when Reddit was happening. You were learning like, oh, this is how Reddit works inside and out. I understand it now. Now you're on YouTube and you're like, oh, this is kind of how this should work, or this makes more sense if I do this, or if I create content like this, it might work. You study this so much that it makes sense to care about your content.
Yeah.
You know, in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the last time we talked, I think we did the math, and I think you were at like 60,000 subscribers. So you had done a year of no love as far as like getting subscribers.
Well, 60,000 is nothing to sneeze at.
But I'm saying, and then with the after, but I mean, it was like consistently no growth, and then it started picking up steam, and then we did the interview at 60. So at 60, we're like, dang, dude.
Yeah, it was finally like, this is working now.
You grew a channel, like 60,000 people is ridiculous. But now your channel is at 447,000 subscribers to date, which is crazy to think like it went in just a year and a half almost from our last time we talked.
Yeah.
It's grown
a lot.
Yeah. Which is so sick. And like, so let's get to this new interview you just did with Elon.
Yeah.
So you went to, I don't know, where is this at?
Boca Chica, Texas. It's outside of Brownsville. The very, very, very southern, as far south as you can go in the continental United States, besides like the Florida Keys, basically.
Crazy. Yeah. Dave, have you ever heard of that? Dave's from Texas. Have you ever heard of Chotopeka, Texas?
Chotopeka.
He said no.
Brownsville.
Brownsville? Do you know where that is? Space stuff happens there.
Now it does. It didn't ever before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. SpaceX bought like this random land with like a village there. They're trying to buy the village. There's like 20 houses in the middle of nowhere. Like, this is the weirdest place in the world.
Do you stay the night there?
I'll stay either on South Padre Island, which is only 5 miles away, but it takes an hour because you have to drive around this big sound.
Yeah.
Or in Brownsville itself. Yeah.
Okay, so you head down there. What's cool about this is like, I don't think it was on the interview, but shortly after, you're like coming into 2019, you're like, dude, I am going to work so hard to get an interview with Elon. Like
that was my goal.
That was my goal for 2019. And you checked that box 1 week ago. You dropped the video. Yeah. I don't know when you did the trip or shot the video, but you went down to Texas, and SpaceX was doing what?
They had, so about once a year, they do almost like a keynote, like almost like an Apple event in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, a big keynote, updating everyone on their, it sounds insane. And each year it sounds less insane because it's actually happening. They're showing off their plans to get humans to Mars. And like the first time they really did a keynote like this was 2016. Elon showed, it was in front of like 4,000 people, a huge venue. Like, it was weird. There's pandemonium, people screaming to get into the doors. Like, it felt like a Beatles concert, but it was awkward because the plan was so ambitious. People were just like, okay, sure.
But then at the time, didn't you get to get up and ask like a question during the Q&A?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the video and be like, dang, he just talked to Elon.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And
that was the first time I like got to ask Elon a question at a press conference.
Right.
Yeah. And and that was like, but it was kind of awkward. And year after year, they show us like what they're working on, how they're going to make it happen. And this year, we're out there in Boca Chica, Texas, in the middle of nowhere. And here is this, 150 foot tall or 50 meter tall, giant stainless steel rocket that's 30 feet wide, 9 meters wide, with these giant fins that's going to be flying already in a couple months for some of their first test flights. And it's going to be the biggest rocket ever, most powerful rocket when it's fully stacked. And it's when it's fully stacked, it'll be like 35 stories tall, basically.
Holy crap.
Just a skyscraper.
Yeah.
A shiny skyscraper. And so this was their year of like updating us on where they're at. So this is like kind of that yearly thing, kind of a keynote. And it's always really highly anticipated because they reveal a few more like the plans. Because we'll get information, especially lately on Twitter from Elon about like what they've been doing, but to really start to see more into the future and what's going to immediately be happening. This is like the big, highly anticipated, in-depth rundown, like an hour-long.
So is it invite only?
It's normally press only. They actually invited some of the local people this time.
Yeah.
Because it has such a big impact on the Brownsville and Boca Chica community.
Yeah.
So they invited like local people to come hang out. But normally it's like employees and, SpaceX employees, maybe like a big conference where it's like a paid conference that is other things, or it's just like straight up press.
So how did you get in the invite? Like, how did that happen? That's pretty sick to get invited to that.
Well, I used to do, photography and stuff with other venues, like with other blogs and stuff, like Spaceflight Now and shooting for them. So I kind of had press credentials and that history there. And when I started doing Everyday Astronaut, like I already had contacts to be like, hey, can I still be doing this as my own thing, basically? Right. And so I developed those relationships with that community already.
Totally.
So that I am basically on the same list as everyone else for media updates because I'm considered bona fide media, I guess. Yeah.
But so you go there, Elon, they do the whole thing. What time's you're out?
My out's at 11, but we're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you go there, you do this they do the press conference and everything, and it's crazy, and they're announcing a bunch of stuff that's blowing your mind, whatever. Mm-hmm. You get to interview Elon after?
Yeah.
So did you know that you were going to be able to interview him?
I was told I might have an opportunity and that they're going to try to get me, that someone was trying to get me time with Elon.
And how many other press that were like the different people or forms of press that were there got to interview him as well? Was it just like he was ready to just do interview after interview? Because in the video, after he's done, he kind of just like doesn't have anywhere to go. So it's was he
me and CNN?
That's so sick.
And he did have one sit down non-video interview like later on,
right?
With Ars Technica.
That's so sick.
But like, yeah, as far as like video interviews like that, it was me.
Can you imagine?
And CNN.
That's like going to an Apple press event for people who are trying to compare this and being able to sit down with Tim Cook and it's just you and CNN that get to talk to him afterwards,
right?
And he just announced the craziest tech releases in whatever year. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
in my world, that was like that's climbing, Mount. Whatever,
were you terrified?
Everest. Honestly, no.
Because you've been preparing for this for your whole life.
Exactly. Well, and I've developed a literal like back and forth conversations with Elon for the past year on Twitter.
I know. I always see like these. You like somehow he engages with you all the time, and you'll comment on things he's saying, and he responds.
Yeah, a lot. Like, which is statistically the number one responded to person by a pretty large margin on Twitter.
But it's so funny because you're like, you told me like, yeah, man, he's already responding to my tweets on Twitter. Like, I know he knows that I'm here, right?
Yeah.
And I have my merch. So what's the deal with your merch? You give like a discount.
Dude, I've had this. This has been a weird,
such a hard hustle
mastermind.
To me. I know.
Okay, so here's what for me, like, what's gonna make me stand up above all the noise of everyone trying to get Elon's attention? He's one of the most important
Literally,
humans.
CNN got him, and Tim did too.
Well, think about it. In my opinion, he's one of the most influential humans on Earth right now.
Yeah. Everybody out here has Teslas.
Yep.
To start with.
And SpaceX is just at the infancy. Like he will go down as Howard Hughes mixed with, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and like all, basically anyone that's done anything groundbreaking.
Right.
He's up there and he's going in history and he is a total visionary.
Yeah.
Everyone wants his attention. Everyone wants his time. His time is physically valuable.
Yeah.
So for me, I started realizing, okay, what does he care about? And he is an actual engineer. Like he has an engineering degree. He cares about these weird, minute details. So I started paying attention to like what he was tweeting about.
Right.
And really getting myself, I happen to be converging paths, like getting really into some of these, niche subjects. And so I started asking him questions as I'm learning. I'm like, oh, I just learned about heat flow in stainless steel versus whatever. So let me ask him that. And like, you could tell his tripping triggers of like, he's excited about this too, because it's literally what him and his engineering team is working on right now.
Right. And
so then he'd like answer. And so I started getting really, and I was using these questions and these answers as information for my videos too.
According to Elon.
Yeah. And that's actually a big part of my videos these days. It's like, so I reached out and got and I have like the actual source of what is going to happen. So I'm not rumor milling. So I'm actually getting information from Elon Musk, which is important to me.
Right.
And so it's been this like back and forth of like, yes, it can be, some people find it really annoying, like pestering of like, you ask him questions on every tweet. I'm like, it's Twitter, man. I'm not calling him or knocking on his door. Like it's
he
Twitter.
can ignore it if he wants to ignore it.
Hundreds of thousands of responses to every tweet, or thousands and thousands. It's not like so if he finds a question that's interesting, of course, like why wouldn't I ask a relevant question about the things that he's excited about?
Right.
And maybe that's old guard versus new guard. Like a traditional journalist would be like, that's unprofessional. Like you have to, schedule time to ask him some of these questions. Like it's Twitter. The great thing is like here's a aha for me. He had done a few Reddit AMAs, and I realized as my schedule starts to get crazier, the idea of even scheduling out an hour to sit down and do an AMA, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Right.
Twitter is the same thing. But like he can do it whenever he wants.
Yeah.
Literally, when he can be going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
He can be getting on an airplane.
Yeah.
And just pop off an answer. So you started using it like that. Like, hey, I'm going to ask him questions.
Sidebar real quick. My mom FaceTimed me and I just put her on because she's a big fan of the podcast. So say hi to my mom real quick.
Hi. Wait.
Hi. Say hi, Mom.
That's awesome.
All right.
I miss your family.
Mom, I gotta go. Love you a long time. She listens to every podcast episode.
Oh, she's the best.
So with the strategy of like attacking him attacking your strategy of getting to like make him familiar to you, and your goal is, and I'm sure he's seen some of your videos by just curiosity, right?
Yeah.
You for sure, bro.
Yeah.
Everyone at the top pays attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're all curious because they're being talked about, right?
Right.
So if someone can show, like, if someone's showing promise and grows a channel from nothing, and is talking, it's like, you're kind of like, what are they saying about me? You know what I mean?
Well, so for me, it's a little bit of like I hope this isn't sounding manipulative of like, but it is a matter of like, again, this is one of the most important people with countless, literally millions of people trying to get his attention and whatever. And to stand out, like I know that the value of my channel is the education.
Right.
I know that my own knowledge base and what I'm learning is relevant to what he's working on and things that he's excited about. And then lastly, like name recognition, classic like marketing, having a name out like in front of someone over and over, you got to smack them in the face 100 times. Part of me was like, what if I made it so, because I do have a lot of fans that work at SpaceX.
Everywhere he goes.
So what if everywhere he goes, he's reading Everyday Astronaut?
I love it.
So I made it so that if you work in the aerospace industry, you get 25% off any apparel.
Off your merch store.
Off my merch store.
And your merch is very much like...
very branded.
It's very cool. It's like very branded to space, and it's relative. And
it's like diagrams of like nerdy stuff.
Right.
You know, very, very space engineer will love this stuff.
Right.
And it says Everyday Astronaut on it, right? And so I had a patron write a code that made it so like you put in an email and it has to be a registered domain that we have listed as a approved aerospace, domain. It pops you a coupon code, blah, blah, blah. You can check out and you get 25% off apparel. The idea being, if I can increase even a little bit, if there's a chance that every now and then Elon is talking to an engineer about something
and they're wearing your shirt
and they're wearing an Everyday Astronaut shirt, that's got to be worth something, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, why not?
But I think it worked.
Yeah, I think.
I don't
know what worked really.
But I'm just saying, it's consistency of just being around. Like it's no different than anything you want to be around. If you start showing value or trying to add to whatever the circus of all this is, it's like there's so much progression, and you're involved in the ride of that progression, and you're a person that has access to other people who are interested in learning, and you're providing value.
Right.
At some point, who's this guy keeps message me on Twitter? You look into it. You click on one video. Oh, cool. He's got a little channel about this stuff. Like,
and he broke this down.
That's sick.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think the key is too, like mentally, and maybe this actually was a practice, but like I did not want to come to him as a fan.
Right.
I did not want to come to him as a fan at all. I wanted to be a peer.
Right.
I wanted to be someone of value in his community and to amongst his peers, amongst his team, someone that is respected in that community. I wasn't trying to ride coattails of anything he's doing. I wanted to add to what he's doing and help explain some of the things that he's working on. Because again, looking at every one of those keynotes, he said, every single year since 2016, 17, 18, 19, I want to inspire people. I think this is important because it's massively inspirational, and people like basically, people living and working in space and on different planets is way more exciting than not.
Right.
Like that's something he said every year. And part of that is education and is making people appreciate the things that he's working on. So I've taken that as like, that is my goal, is to take what other people are working months on, these weird engineering things that are so complex, so hard to fathom, the amount of work and the sleepless nights because titanium all of a sudden exploded under the certain condition under weird cryogenic temperatures or whatever. Okay, let's break that down, and so it also helps validate and cheerlead the people that are doing all this hard engineering work.
Right.
And that are think about how, when something blows up, when a rocket blows up, think about like that was, I know this is like not as big of a tragedy as, losing a human life or things like, because there's a lot of legitimate tragedies in the world, but still, say you worked on a project for 2 years and then you watch it just go up in flames, like that would be heart wrenching. And like
in a matter of seconds.
Exactly.
You spent thousands and thousands of hours.
Years.
Some
people decades on some projects,
Yeah.
And to be able to be kind of in a position to help curb and help other people not jump to conclusions, be supportive, break down the complex things that went wrong or that went right, and whatever.
Right.
Like just be my job is basically a professional cheerleader. I'm professionally curious and I'm a professional cheerleader. Like I just want people, I want to celebrate the work that other people are doing.
Totally.
And make it appreciated and make it so that other people see value in that, and it should be cool.
Right.
Like, it should be cool to work at an aerospace company.
Right.
You know, if you are building a rocket engine and you're eking out, you're literally at the edge of what's physically possible on our planet, you know, with the materials provided, like that's incredible.
That's crazy.
That's to me, that's the coolest thing we could do as a species, is like literally learn how to exploit every drop of propellant to be able to perform work to put us human beings out there amongst the stars. Like that's huge.
That's crazy.
It's so important. And whatever I can do to make that more valuable to the average person. I actually just tweeted yesterday, total joke, because if this happened, we would literally, people would die, but like a space appreciation day where all space assets turn off for one day, for 24 hours, our world would shut down. People don't understand that like every banking transaction, the shipping industry, airplanes, your phones, everything would basically go into a state of just halt. Like everything relies on space assets. The whole telecom industry, everything relies on space assets, and it's the total backbone that no one appreciates.
Right.
And that's not even the romantic part. The romantic part to me is going out and exploring space and actually seeing, you know, having humans walking on other bodies. Like that's the coolest thing ever. That's human nature to go and explore. That's us innately. But what people don't understand is that if space stuff stopped right now, like we would be screwed. People would actually die.
Literally die.
Literally die. If we got hit right now by a massive, like, you know, cosmic ray and it wiped out all of our satellites, which is a real possibility, yeah, we'd be screwed.
What the fuck? Oops, sorry.
Like,
just terrifying.
Yeah, it's like an EMP on the whole planet and we'd all be screwed. And people don't understand the value. And again, also like more morbidly, like if an asteroid came, we'd all just be dead.
Right.
Like that's sure. That's the next, like that's, yeah, we got to figure that out. Dinosaurs didn't have rockets.
Overall, this is your after hearing this, it's like this is the passion that you have behind this.
Right.
I think that is reflected in your work. And I'm sure that's why someone set it up that you and CNN got to interview Elon at this event, one of his bigger events out of the year. Mm-hmm. Biggest event out of the year? Besides
for space,
doing like cool stuff.
Like Tesla events are really big too.
Right.
Yeah.
But so for space, you're getting to interview him. Someone, did you know who hooked you up with this, or was it just
I do. Yeah.
So was it just like a homie on the inside?
I mean, it's someone that I've developed a relationship with and a rapport, more importantly.
And they just care about what you're trying to do and knew that.
And I've made it very clear that I want time with Elon someday.
Right.
And that's something that I think Elon would care for.
Right.
Because I have seen every interview with him, and I know that there's two things. One, Elon loves to talk about engineering and actually the decisions that he and his team gets to make. And two, he has these pauses when he's thinking. And they'll be really awkward. And people fill those pauses. And they oftentimes don't let him get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
And so those were the two things I wanted to walk into that interview with. I want, if there's that pause of him going, not to try to fill it and like try to do the thing that the normal interviewer will do.
Yeah.
But to give him that space to churn, and then boom, he will just go off on things. And it's so cool. It is brilliant in my opinion. Like that's what makes Elon Musk is like this ability to process in real time. And then the funny thing is his mouth can't even keep up with his brain, you know?
Right.
And then the other part is just asking him questions about things that he actually cares about.
So did you, in your quest to get this interview with him, was this the perfect scenario?
Yeah. Because
I feel like this is first of many. I feel like you'll be able to do this again.
Well, that's the other goal. Is like I want Elon to walk away from that and be like, that was fun.
Right.
That was worth my time.
Yeah.
He understood me and my engineering decisions and what I care about.
Right.
That was fun. He asked good questions. That's worth my time. And the audience resonated with it, you know, that.
I mean, this video boomed. In 1 week, it's already accumulated 1.3 million views. It was cool because when you put it out, or you like sent me a quick like iPhone video of your computer, like you interviewing, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be crazy. And then I see on Twitter, you're like, stand by guys, I'm still putting it together, blah, blah, and everyone's just like, drop it. And because everyone knows that this is an influence to you and you get to interview him and you do it. And you just released this uncut 17-minute video where you do your interview and you respect his time too. And at the very end, you're like, all right, thanks for doing this. And it's so funny because he starts to leave like, all right, yeah, thanks. Shake hands, whatever. He starts walking away. You're like, oh, I need my audio actually. You needed your lavalier mic. And he turns around. So you take the mic off him and then he just casually keeps talking to you
Yeah.
about more stuff, and you were able to use the camera audio to get it, and that part of it was just as interesting as the first part of it.
Maybe more interesting even.
Like the fact that he was willing, you know, I mean, like think about how valuable his time is, and he just turns around and he kind of didn't really have anywhere to go. He just like kind of walks over some people and then turns around, and then he's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, you could tell he likes talking to you.
That's the part where people got a real glimpse that this is what he actually loves. Not the conversation, but the topic. Like he loved talking about, like he lit up when, you know, we kind of like pop back into it, and we both got it a little more out of, you know, interview mode and way more into just like two guys talking.
Right.
And so you could see it, and it was so fun. And so the reason, kind of off the record, the reason why I didn't have to get approval from communications to release it as is.
Sure.
They
were just cool with whatever you got, you can share.
I mean, basically, you know, like you can share whatever you want, really.
Unless Elon walked away and was like, hey, make sure that guy never posts that video. For some reason, he asked me about my underwear, and I don't like that.
But legally, you could probably post it. You know, there's nothing illegal about that per se. I don't know all that. But just morally and all that stuff, I wanted to make sure that this was the first of many interviews. And since we had such a large portion of it that was off mic. Right. Because he took his mic off and was assumed that he was no longer being recorded, he spoke a little more candidly. Sure. He talked about things that we didn't know if it was okay to talk about. Right. So I needed to get permission and just to cover all my bases. And it came down to at the end of the day, it was basically like, this is actually up to Elon if this gets shared like this. And so I had to ask Elon.
Right. So because I remember
it took a minute because it's Elon Musk.
Someone, they responded and they're like, hey, like the only like we'd have to ask Elon if he's cool with this or whatever, and your response was like, I'm in it for the long haul. Like I'll wait. Urgency is dope, and it'd be great to get this out right now, but I'm cool with waiting however long it takes for you guys to ask him. And then he responded to you at some point, not on email.
No, he DM'd me on Twitter.
Elon Musk slid into your DMs
and just goes like, I approve the video
because he saw like I think he was seeing people being like, hey, what's up with the video, and you're like, oh, just waiting for approval.
And I said, and it was funny. This is weird. I mean, this is still a little insight on Elon, and I need to use this to help still place him and what's important to him. What he did is he went into my DMs by DMing me my own response to someone. You know, like my Twitter, my tweet was.
He saw that and
sent it to me in my DMs. My thing was like, it'll be done when it's done. You know me, quality matters more than quantity and timelines. Like, I'll let you know when it's ready, basically. Was like my response, which is always my response. Yeah. And that's like my brand is quality matters, basically. And that's what he DM'd me, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. And then said like, I approve of the link that was sent to me, basically. And I just go, thanks, you're the best. And he's like, you're welcome. Like, you know, I kept it short like that. Right. Like it's, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So apparently he did. And I thought, in my opinion, and this is my own opinion of him and of what I've seen of him, that's the most candid, genuine interview where you can tell, you get to see him cranking on the engineering decisions and enjoying being able to like just nerd out on this stuff. And to me, that was like the most Elon thing ever. And it's the part that often gets hidden behind some like dumb, you know, news clip or some like Twitter controversy or something. This is the Elon Musk that I think people need to see. Right. Because it's the passionate, brilliant.
The walk back and the willingness to continue like another 6 minutes with you on camera.
I'm now talking to you because I'm excited about this. Forget like what's, you know,
dude, he didn't need to do this.
No, not
like
at all.
He just showed you a massive, it's going to turn into the size of a skyscraper rocket that he designed with his money and stuff. And then could have like, you know, that's like, go to the after party. You know what I mean? Like, let's go celebrate this, pop some champagne or whatever. He's just like, I just love this. I'm going to keep talking to Tim. Yeah, because he's just, you could see how curious he is. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see. I mean, the video was trending on, it literally was like, I texted you, I was like, dude, it's like number 20 on the trending right now. Like literally number 20. And then I posted on Twitter and people kept like updating me on Twitter just because you were tagged in it. And they'd be like, it's at number 8 right now. It's at number 9. I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
It's crazy. And what I'm excited about is that something that was trending was complex rocket science and engineering and celebrating and making that like cool and sexy. Right. You know, because look at this stuff on the trending page is normally some like confetti fart party pants, you know, or whatever. Like, I lost $10,000 to this shoe. Okay, cool, YouTube, you know. Right. And here's an interview with one of the most brilliant minds on our planet, letting him just go off on rocket science.
So cool.
Like,
and I'm glad, because did you shoot at multiple angles?
we shot 3 angles on it.
And I love that it's just one.
That was a scary decision. Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Well, the big thing is, and people are like, because it's, YouTube and people complain about everything. But people are like, oh, the cameraman is moving. Yeah, good thing Michael was on a Ronin and on a Steadicam, because Elon kept turning. By the time the interview was over,
you'd have to shift
I would have had
tripod.
cool shots of his shoulders, basically. Yay.
But I also think choosing to do an unedited version of it shows like you didn't hide anything, that it's unfiltered. You know what I mean? Like, and it feels like you're there. It's like this really intimate setting now. Right.
Yeah. And that was kind of the whole goal, and
congrats. I feel like that's crazy.
It is.
It's dope to look at your top viewed videos. It's like you have a consistent 6-7 videos that all have hit over 1 million views.
Yeah.
Which is so wild. Like on this topic, think about how crazy that is, and then the fact that it's showing promise to grow, and the audience is going to grow, and you're creating an avenue for people who probably might not even have had interest in it to trip on your videos and be like, that was pretty interesting, I'm gonna watch another one, or I'm gonna subscribe. And now then they may just have naturally grow, and now they're tuning in to the next launch event or whatever, they're watching those streams and stuff. It's pretty sick.
Yeah. And it's interesting, if you look at the top 7 subjects, they're very narrow, but they're weirdly very popular.
Is SpaceX Raptor engine the king of rocket engines? No idea. I watch it like, maybe. What I'm like, when you look at the thumbnail, it just looks like some stuff I would find in my in a cool like
a junk drawer.
No, like a kitchen, like when I worked at Park Place Event Center, the chef's back there, and he's using that to like pour exact amounts of like whatever,
or like old like wine toppers or something.
Yeah, but these are actually rocket engines that get you to space. But when you click it, you become curious. It's so interesting. What are your plans now moving forward? Like, you even did a Facebook show, which was interesting, and you took time off from it. How did you feel about that? Like, what experience wise behind it? Did it? I know it like made sense to you at the time, but I feel like you don't.
I would never do that again. I would not. The traditional way of shooting a product like that, where you have a whole team of people, a whole production company, a showrunner, director of photography, multiple all this stuff. Like, I spent basically 2 months, because I was also co-producer, so I was working really hard on all these things, and the product at the end of the day ends up being exactly what has always been done in that niche, and in the like field of like, this needs to appeal to every person. Like, my grandma needs to be able to sit down and enjoy this, whatever. But that's not the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to appeal to everyone. You're going to water everything down if you're trying to appeal to the 7 billion humans on Earth. Why don't you focus on the 3 million people that really care about this stuff and cater to them? Because that'll do better.
Right.
And so that was the problem with the YouTube show, or the Facebook show, it was very watered down for the average person. And by average person, not like average person that's into space, like literally average.
Right.
That was the,
I watched it and it felt like it was targeted towards like kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, Tim seems so animated and overly, you know what I mean? Like, when your YouTube stuff, it's like straight to it, and you're, you can be animated, but you're still like feeding.
Yeah, it's like all content.
Deep thought facts.
Yeah, there's no like filler. There's no like. Hyperbole,
I remember you going into it, and you were like excited on the idea, and I was nervous for you because you were like, I'm gonna have a result of doing the show. I have to lean off the content I'm putting out on my channel, and I'm like, dude, that you can't like. Everything I've learned so far about YouTube, it's like if you have some growth, don't stop. You know what I mean? Like,
there's basically a 2-month dead on my channel, and in retrospect, had I just continued doing YouTube, financially, I definitely would have been better off today.
Continuing to do, because you don't. I mean, dude, if you think about that, and earlier when we were talking about you building a team, I think traditional media, that route is, to create a show around that, and think about the viewership. It's on Facebook. Like, how many views are you actually racking up on Facebook videos?
One video had almost 1 million.
That's pretty good, actually.
Well,
for Facebook,
for that much money,
but
poured
no
into
one
it, though?
watches. That's what I'm saying. People put money in, but when they say, you think like, oh, it's a TV deal. It's like you might have caught a tiny bag to take the idea on, but then you have to delegate the rest of that budget to all these people that they need to make this show.
Yeah.
And your normal videos of you just posted up in your apartment or whatever, and you just running your mouth to camera and doing all that's performing way better.
Way better.
So it's funny how some people get tricked into that, and I think that goes back to like my inspiration for YouTube behind like following Casey Neistat is him going from having done HBO and blown up a TV show. He was a star of his own show, did same thing. And then hating how long it took for them to put it out, how long it took to make it, how so many people had control. And he's like, I'm just going to go to YouTube.
Yeah. It's the same thing still true. Yeah. Like that, we're watching that model die because it's not. Michael and I were just talking about this again, and Michael Bowden shoots with me. And he's been helping me a lot more lately, but like he's talking about like how we can set up and throw a camera up and be shooting something in less than a minute. That same shot, exactly the same, maybe a tiny bit better quality, whatever, minuscule, like a diminishing return times a million, 99.99% of the quality we will have, and we will have it ready in a minute, would take an hour for a crew, at least, maybe 2 hours by the time you load in everything. Yeah. Like really, is that worth your time and money?
Right.
No. The answer is no. It's an actual answer, and the industry will figure that out.
Right.
When YouTube is outperforming, and that's what's so weird. There's still this, an aura of like, oh, a show on Discovery Channel. Oh, I have a show on History Channel. What? How many people are actually watching that?
Right.
Yes, it's like a lineage, and yes, it has like this like name behind it. But I'll bet you, like, there's a lot of YouTube channels that have way more views than that show would ever have on History Channel these days.
Or consistent views, like
and take them with them, right? On whatever they work on after that.
Hulu should come to a YouTuber and do a video, like you do what you're gonna do, and we're gonna put money behind it, and we're gonna just say powered by Hulu at the beginning. And instead of having to go to Hulu to watch it because I have Netflix and I don't have a Hulu account and I only want to pay for one per month, I don't go watch the show. You know what I mean? It's like. It's interesting where media is going right now. And I know that, there's obviously like some cases where having a true DP and a crew come light something makes sense. But for like talking heads or like, hey guys, what's up? I'm outside today and we're going to teach you how to do blah, 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 blah. Do you really need to like spend all day long lighting or just throw an ND filter and put it on your whatever and let it run? You know what I mean?
And yeah, again, it's not to say that there isn't a use case for some of those productions because that there's still a thing about that, and there's still an art to that. There's still a whole industry behind that, but it is shifting, and you need to be paying attention to that. And you don't need to put that up on the pedestal of this is what my product needs to be, because it might be so overkill.
Well, especially for you, like for someone to come to you with this like label aspect. Like, I'm gonna give you a label deal, and does that label deal really help you, because the lane you're creating for yourself is the label. You are now the label, and you represent yourself, so you own your masters. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Where if you some old head like Facebook TV is going to reinvent the wheel. Is it? Because I don't even know where that button is to go find.
No idea.
On Facebook, where do I go look through the stuff they pay millions of dollars for every year?
They paid a lot of money for that, for their content.
Tons of money. And I know I have several friends that like put stuff out with Facebook. It's like, I've never seen it.
No.
I've never, ever seen it.
They shot themselves in the foot on that.
Okay, so you did that, which is interesting, and then you've gone back, and I think the YouTube model obviously works for you. What are your plans going into the future? Like, how do you level up what you're doing right now?
My only goal right now, and this is going to sound insane, is I want to be Walter Cronkite of the 21st century.
Don't know him.
Walter Cronkite was the CBS affiliate that covered the entire Apollo program in the 60s.
That's
like
sick.
That's who our parents, our grandparents, every human watched Walter Cronkite to get his opinion on what was going on in the space race, basically, right? And he like that was his. He was the answer, the guy that was so tuned into it, so passionate that's who everyone turned to for his reaction. Apollo 11 when it took off, he took his glasses off, he's crying, like on air, like. He like that. That's I want to be that for the 21st century. I want to be when we step foot on Mars, when we go to the moon again really soon. I want to be at the top of that game. I want to be the source, the person that people trust and people like enough to watch and help put all the stuff into perspective. That's
which
the goal.
Is 100% possible, because what's cool about that is that sometimes, like if Elon was constantly on YouTube talking, it may be overwhelming because it's almost like he can't bridge the gap to communicate to the average person because he's so smart and is so involved in it that it doesn't make sense to everyone else. Where you're able to digest little pieces and create it, and you become a source where people can just go to and understand it. Yeah, it's totally possible.
The biggest compliment to me is this happens all the time actually. Whenever I go to like a company, if I go to visit Virgin Galactic or whatever, and people come up to me, I show your videos to my family so they know what I'm doing.
Man.
And that's to me the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
Because that means that I'm doing I'm elevating their work, bringing it down to earth for the average person to be able to consume.
Your
bringing
literal
space
slogan.
down to earth for everyday people.
Yeah. So sick.
In and out. Yeah.
I love it. All right. I want to do, I don't even know. I got to see if I do the Q&A experience. I think we have like 1 or 2 questions. So we do this with our Patreon people. Shout out to you for teaching me about Patreon because it helps us out over here.
Yeah.
I literally post this like so last minute. I don't even know. Nick just asked Tim, what are his top 3 favorite spots to take Milky Way photos?
Ooh. I would definitely say Moab, Utah is like one of the coolest places. There's Arches National Park and there's like Canyonlands. It's really a great place because it's dark sky, it's beautiful, it's inspiring, it's quiet, it's peaceful. That's definitely probably number 1. Other than that, like honestly, like Iowa, just like around the Midwest where you get some dark sky out there when it's a not very humid night, like either in the spring or in the fall when the corn's gone because the corn actually creates a ton of humidity. We get some really good night sky there. Otherwise, really the cool thing is like anywhere. That's what I love about it. It's
Anywhere
like
not in LA.
Yeah, anywhere not in LA. Like as soon as you have enough peacefulness and low enough city lights, like to go out and enjoy the night sky is such a treat.
Right.
And it's literally every human has that same experience.
Right. Are you actively still pursuing photography or do you not get a chance to do it as much anymore because...
Well, I haven't been for hire at all since 2017, basically, right? And I'm just now, like in a week or 2, I don't even know when, going to Europe for like 6 days. 6 days of it will be purely photography with my friend Neil, not Neil Price, but Neil Johnson, and we're just going to shoot photos for fun.
Nice.
Like as the passion, for me to like kind of return to those roots.
Yeah, vacation almost.
Yeah, a total vacation.
Yeah, that's gonna be sick.
Like, not worrying about, we're still shooting a video at the end of it for the last 3 days, but the first 6 days, vacation.
It's sort of
mode.
vacation.
Yeah, no, 100% vacation. Like
while staging out your video and spinning.
No, I'm gonna try to not worry about video at all for that. I'm only gonna go and we're gonna take pictures in like Prague and stuff. It'll be super cool.
My last question, my intern Darren before was like, dude, I want to ask him about aliens. What was your question? He says.
I've been listening to JRE.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's been interviewing Bob Lazar.
Yep.
I think it is.
Bob Lazar. They're
Yep.
talking about Bob Lazar.
What's your opinion on those accounts that they made with the surveillance tape?
He wants to know.
Yeah.
He wants to know Tim's
They were diving into that a lot.
opinion on the accounts with what?
With Bob Lazar. Yeah, Bob Lazar kind of.
Area 51.
Yeah, so Bob Lazar, he's been saying the same stuff for decades, basically, right? I'm not at all like great claims require great evidence is like my number 1 thing, and I definitely think there's life out there. Like the odds of us being alone on this planet and the only life is basically impossible. Like that's impossible. Right. So I definitely think there's intelligent life forms and other life forms out there amongst the universe. What he talks about, some of it like. He's either the greatest such a pathological liar that he believes he may have worked for some security industry because some of his biggest claims are like he knew about this hand scanning thing with like the doc. Like stuff like that. Like maybe he worked for the company that made that hand scanner. You know, like the claims he makes are huge. There's some things that have some substantial evidence behind them, but like, is all of what he says possible without aliens, basically?
Right.
Like that's my like take on that, and I would love for us to have evidence and know that we actually have all this alien technology. Like that's the coolest thing ever.
Right.
I want that.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
But in order for me to, as a science communicator, in order for me to follow along with that, you got to start showing me some stuff and showing me the data behind it, showing me the science behind it. And if you're going to talk about anti-gravity stuff that you can't touch your hand on it because it does all the stuff, cool. Where is it?
Right.
Like,
don't show me this 1945 video footage.
Yeah.
Of it barely able to see a light in the sky. I'll go shoot that tomorrow.
Well, and so Bob Lazar, very interesting, very compelling. Everything he talks about, I'm just like, dude, wow.
I know. I thought it was pretty interesting.
That is interesting stuff.
I like hope for it to be real.
Yeah, I do too.
I also heard the crackhead outside say something about...
Well,
no, I'm joking.
And the other thing, as far as like aliens and UFOs go, we have this interesting correlation where for a long time, basically ever since like the first report of like flying saucers came out, the all of a sudden the incidence of people reporting flying saucers went up like exponentially.
Oh, right.
But then all of a sudden, like it did not correlate to the increase in cameras. So all of a sudden now, look at what has happened. Everyone has a 4K camera in their freaking pocket.
Well, like the only footage right now is from like a jet in the military jet.
Yeah,
and it's like those were the only people that pinged this thing that was flying back and forth, which is so wild.
There's security cameras on every building, everywhere. We should have an equal increase in UFO spottings and UFO things if that's like what the evidence is. But instead, no, we get the shaky camera from the 90s of some UFO in a cornfield.
Who knows, Darren? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm open to it, but
I know you have to get going. I'll wrap this up. So every interview, I always end it with my guest. I tell everyone to go to your Instagram. So Everyday Astronaut, go there. Tag me on your latest post, whatever your most recent post as the time. Whoever's listening to this right now, whatever his most recent post is, go there. You're gonna tag me at BenRealVerseWorld, and you're gonna put this hashtag that Tim comes up with, so we both know that they listened to this entire episode all the way through, because those are the real ones. Any hashtag you want.
Any hashtag.
I don't know if I was doing this during when we did our first interview.
No, you didn't. The hashtag for this one will be, keep exploring.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, go drop that. Anything else you want them to do to follow along with you? Make sure to subscribe to Tim's YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah.
We'll drop links to all that stuff.
If you want to learn, come hang out. That's what I like to do too.
Boom.
Boom.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right. Love you, Ben.
Love you too, dog. Bye. Goodbye. That's it for episode 132. Huge thanks to my boy Tim Dodd for coming on the show. Listen, each week I'm interviewing some of the most talented creators in the world, and if you ever wanted to ask any of these people a question directly, now is your chance. By becoming a member of our Patreon community, you can be a part of the Q&A experience with each of our guests. Not only do our Patreon members get to have their name and the question read on the podcast, but they also get access to all the other amazing perks that we have to offer, like the bonus podcast episode, exclusive live streams, detailed behind-the-scenes breakdowns, and so much more. You can check out all of those perks that we have over at jointhehomies.com. Appreciate you all for listening to this episode, but before you start listening to another Black with No Cream podcast episode, stop what you're motherfucking doing right now. Pull out your phone or your computer, hop on iTunes, and leave us a review. Every review helps this podcast grow and reach more creators out there, which helps us continue to create this content for you guys every single day, so we appreciate that. Please leave a review. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram at Black with No Cream, and make sure to send this podcast out to anyone that you think would benefit from hearing it. We love you guys. See you in a few days, you bitch.